Part 2. Not everyone gets a part 2.
Wow.
I think you and Paul Stanley, Paul Stanley, and Daryl Hall.
You know, I got so many wonderful people to talk about because it's not about me.
It is about you.
I'm like Forrest Gump. I just happen to be there. And I got a lot of great people, stories to tell about.
Rudy from Cuba. We have a lot to talk about. Okay. Hate to start on a sad note, but after Randy passes, Ozzy obviously has to stop for a time. How long was that stop?
No more than 10 days.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Was there internal discussion like, because I was in a similar situation once, also tragic, not making light of it, but what's the internal deliberation? Do we keep going? How do we?
It was a combination of a few factors. Right before Randy passed away, there was a conflict between Randy and Ozzy because Ozzy, there was a commitment that was made to do the Speak of the Devil record, which is the Ozzy Black Sabbath re-recordings.
And that was the record to get out of the Don Arden situation. I feel like Sharon's talked about that. So
yeah, if that's what she said, but I never asked, why are we doing this?
Sure.
It's not my place to do that. All I knew is that we were told, okay, the next thing we're going to do, and it's going to be here at this time. And Randy, he spoke up and says, listen, I've already recorded 2 Ozzy records, and I feel that for me, this is going to be step backwards. He didn't want to do that. And this is where his integrity came in. And it did not sit very well with with Ozzy, because now Ozzy doesn't have his guitar player, bandmate, to make the record with.
So that was kind of in the air.
That was in the air. Before Randy passed away, before the crash, they had come to an agreement.
Okay.
Randy was going to do the record, a couple more tours, and maybe another record. This is all up in the air. But initially, what he wanted to do was go back to school and get his degree. I have never played since with another musician who was a rock star that decided to go back to school. Because
did you guys talk about that personally?
I would just listen.
Right.
Because this was his wish to do this. And it was like, I understood. He was in a place so different than mine. I did not take part of Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. To me, playing Bud Daisley bass lines or playing Geezer Butler bass lines, I'm playing somebody else's bass line. It had nothing to do with any musical integrity personally.
Yeah.
But for Randy,
it's a great job, but it's a great job, but it's a job. Yeah.
It's a job. But for Randy, it was a whole different thing, And so within a few days of them coming to an agreement, and Sharon, we both know Sharon. At some point, if Randy would have not passed, would have not died on the crash, she would have come up with a solution.
Okay.
To keep Randy in the band,
of course.
keep Randy go to school.
Why wouldn't you? Because
something would have happened. But at that moment, that's what was going on. There was a certain finality to Randy's contribution to Ozzy at that point.
Sure.
And I remember the last night right after we played Knoxville. It was a long drive from Knoxville to the Orlando area at a place called Kissimmee.
Yeah, that would have been about a 12, 14-hour drive, right?
Yeah. And, and in those days, it was the Wild West as far as tour bus travel. Drivers will drive for 12 hours, and for them to be able to drive 12 hours, they had to get some little help, And so anyways, I'm sitting in the front lounge of the tour bus, and there's Tommy and Randy and Ozzy, and we're watching I believe it was Tora, one of those Japanese war movies where there's a lot of plane
I think it's
crashes.
about the suicide.
Yeah,
That was fighters.
That was on the screen, and I'm like, okay, I just finished the show, doing the show, and I don't want to watch this, so I go in my bunk, and wake up the next morning. Randy is saying, "Rudy, Rhoads," and I open up the curtain, and he's standing in the doorway, looking at me, and he says, "Hey, come up. I'm gonna go on a plane up with the bus driver and Rachel." And I said, no. I knew that we were in Florida. I grew up in Florida. The last thing I wanted to do was go up on a Cessna, flying around where I grew up. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
I told him, I'm just going to wait until we get to the hotel. I'm going to get out of my bunk and lay by the pool. Okay. That was a day off. The next day, we were playing the Tangerine Bowl with Foreigner. And so I shut the curtains and go back to sleep. And I wake up to boom. And I go, I'm startled, the bus was shaking. And I open my curtain, and Sarah and Ozzy come out of the back lounge, and we're all, that area where the bunks are. The door is closed to the lounge, and then I open, and there's glass everywhere. And the passenger side window is blown, and I see our tour manager on his knees pulling his hair, yelling, "They're gone." I have no idea what is he yelling about. And so we're trying to get out of the bus, and Sharon shoves the bus drivers, Andy Aycock, Andrew, his wife, off to the one side so we could get out to see what's going on, because she was frozen, standing there holding, the frame of the door. And I get out of the bus and I look over to my right, and there's a tree right behind the bus, and there's a garage, attached garage to a house, on fire. Now, at that moment, I was not ready to accept the possibility of the reality that was going on. So I'm, I'm looking around, what's going on, and then little by little, information comes up that was the plane that crashed. Suddenly, I went deaf, and all I heard was a low hum, like a frequency. It was deafening. I could see people yelling, crying out, but I couldn't hear anything. And then it just appeared again, and I could hear the crackling of the fire, everything, and all the chaos. It took about an hour and a half for the fire department to arrive, because this is 1982, middle of nowhere in Central Florida. There's no cell phones to be calling, the cops or the fire department. So somebody that was on a horse, riding a horse, saw what happened. There's a house on fire. They rode back to their home, and they're the ones who called the fire department. And so we were in this hell, trying to figure out what's going on, what can we do, and just in disbelief that we had lost Randy and Rachel, who were also on the plane.
So, as you said, there's this 10 days where everybody's trying to figure out you guys are going to go back on tour.
Yes, and we knew, and we briefly spoke about it. Everything was very solemn decisions made by Sharon, and they were basically, let's keep Ozzy busy, let's keep him occupied. Because one of the triggers, things start getting a little bit off kilt for Ozzy right around when Randy decided that he really did not want to partake on the Speak of the Devil recording. He would stay up for a few nights drinking. It was tough for him. That it was a decision that he had no control of. You know, and I mean, as far as making that record and then
Sure.
Randy not wanting to be a part of that. So already Ozzy was, you know, very delicate at that point. And we knew that if Ozzy went home, he would drink himself to death.
So I'm paraphrasing what you're telling me, but tell me if I'm understanding it. It's better to keep him moving forward.
Yeah.
And did you agree with that from a personal point of view?
For being there?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was the only decision to make.
Okay. But set that aside. You just lost your buddy, somebody you loved and was close to. Like, how did you process that? Because that's not...
I became a robot on stage. We did a show, filmed the show that Randy was supposed to be a part of at Irvine, 1982. That was the last continental U.S. Diary of a Madman show. And when I saw myself in the video performing, I knew that I was being a robot, but to actually witness it, to see myself like that, I said, you know what? I did not get into this to become inhuman. I wasn't playing notes anymore. I was trying to survive.
Yeah.
A moment, a show, an hour and a half of survival. I would not look at the audience. I would not look at Ozzy. All I did was, when we played the Garden, Madison Square Garden, I just put my head down and I cried right through the whole show. Because when I first looked out, there was banners. God bless Randy. It was all about Randy. It was awake.
Yeah.
And I just lost it completely.
Yeah. See if this tracks with you, because I've had my own versions of these things where playing is the hardest thing to do because of loss. I played the night after I found out my mother died. And it was one of those things where the funeral was going to be in a few days. So it was like, cancel the show or just go ahead and play the show. You know what I mean? And the reason I feel I understand, but I'm seeing if this tracks with your thing, is music is such a beautiful, joyous celebration that when it isn't that, it's almost like the exact opposite. It's so painful, because how do you do something that you love so much and means so much to you? But when your heart is broken, it's like you don't know how to do those two things. Does that make sense?
It took me decades to figure it out. I mean, nowadays I go on tour with Quiet Riot, and for the first time, I have a higher purpose than just being like, hey, Rudy's up there rocking, No, I'm there to celebrate the memory of those who have passed: Randy, Frankie Banali, Kevin DuBrow, and the legacy of the band. That's my purpose for doing that. But it took me decades, because when I left Ozzy, it was because I had no idea of that responsibility that we, the bandmates who are left behind, we have to those who have passed on.
Yeah.
To keep their music alive.
Yeah.
Our music,
Yeah.
I didn't know then. That happened to me is I went into
shock.
Shock. It was trauma. It took me, again, I don't want to bring out the book, but it took me writing the book to actually put it onto paper to fully get closure of the trauma that I had.
Mm.
And it's a scar. It leaves a scar.
Of course.
It's healed. The scar is healed, but the scar is still there.
Yeah. Yeah. So Quiet Riot's doing this song, Thunderbird.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard the song before, but I didn't know it was connected to Randy until I listened to it again today. It's a beautiful track.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell that everybody involves their hearts there.
It's how I got to go back to what became known as Quiet Riot, because originally that was a continuation of Dubrow. When I left Dubrow to join Ozzy, all the members came in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Kevin named the band Dubrow, so it could be a revolving door.
So he wasn't, beholden
where he would be the only constant.
Okay.
Because 40-something years ago, I mean, in music, it's never easy to succeed in music. So, back then, just like we have right now, we have musicians who have multiple projects.
Sure.
Until one of them takes off,
Yeah, those were different times too, though, as far as what people, you had to kind of pick one lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was named Dubrow, and I get a phone call from Kevin. I was getting ready to go and do Speak of the Devil at the Ritz in New York. And he says, hey, there's a possible record deal, and how would you like to come down and record on Thunderbird? Most of the songs that wound up on the Mental Health record were Dubrow songs that I used to play with Kevin when I was playing in Dubrow. So when I left Ozzy, I actually went back to Dubrow, which was the band that I was in, but it got renamed Quiet Riot because I didn't want it to join leave one of the biggest bands in the world to be in somebody else's band.
I see.
It didn't make any sense. So I said, okay, we have to get a band name. And Kevin said, well, you and we used to be in Quiet Riot, so might as well call it Quiet Riot.
And how does Frankie Banali come?
He was in Dubrow at the time.
Okay.
He was in Dubrow before I came back to record Mental Health.
Yeah.
And so was Carlos Cavasso.
Yeah.
But Frankie had many other gigs going on at the time.
If we can talk about Frankie real quick, because I was listening to some of Frankie's stuff today, knowing I was going to talk to you. And it's interesting because I see Frankie as a crop of those drummers from that time.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I think about it and do he's actually way more influential than I thought he was. Like, he kind of set the template for the way a lot of those people played. Like, he was that guy before everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. From playing with him and knowing him personally, I know he had the biggest record collection. He used to work at a record store in Fort Lauderdale. So when I started playing with him, he's the one who brought me into that world. He got me closer to getting out of the Miami Cuban rock scene, which wasn't even rock. It was more Cuban than rock. And I wanted to be where everybody sang with an accent. We were in the quinceañeras circuit.
Sure.
And one day Will Lee shows up with a band playing with a Cuban band.
Willie, the bassist from
that's right, for
Letterman?
David Letterman. Yeah. He's from Miami. So was Jacko.
I didn't know that,
Jacko and all that. But there's Will Lee, and I'm going, this guy's like from Mars. He sounds just like the radio.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an accent when he sings, and he's playing amazing.
Yeah.
Well, of course, his dad was the dean of the music department at the University of Miami, so he had a proper music education. He was a revelation, as to what you need to have.
Oh, I see.
To make it. So I made the transition from playing in Dade County, going to Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, more of the American, side of Florida. And Frankie is the one that turned me on to all the European, British bands. And he was always ahead of anybody that I knew as far as what's coming, music. And he would always give me the records to listen to it. Yeah. And he's the one who taught me how to be part of the rhythm section. Mm-hmm. That relationship between the drums and the bass.
Yeah, I saw an interview that you gave, and if you don't mind kind of picking up the point, you were talking about how heavy metal bass basically is, Little Richard, this idea of or Jerry Lee Lewis.
And Paul McCartney.
And I never put those pieces together, and when I heard you say it, I was like, wow, that's so because to the average sort of musician, whatever that means, heavy metal bass is not particularly sophisticated. The 80s style. Let me finish and tell me if I'm wrong. No, because you have so much to do with this style. The Bob Daisley era of bass, that sort of more walking around, which guys who grew up on McCartney, you too. Heavy metal bass ended up being kind of like do 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 do. It's like the simplification of that, but it's not a lack of musical sophistication. It's finding more musical drive from a rhythm point of view. Even think of Van Halen bass. It's like bum 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 bum, right?
Yeah.
Does that track with you? What I'm saying?
Okay. I see from my own experience, being a musician, they put you through a grinder or a filter. They go like this, right? It's like, okay, I would say 80% of what you can do musically, nobody hears it. It could be because of the mix. I recently did a recording that, somebody asked me to, they put together Tommy Aldridge and Brad Gillis and myself and say, we want you to do The Real Me by The Who.
Okay.
John and Whistle. It's like, what can I say? One of any bass player of my generation, he is like one of the most influential, if not the most influential, and the utmost respect that I have for him. So I say that I knew John, used to hang out, and it was like, wow, this is an opportunity to like, thank you, John.
Yeah.
So I studied the bass line, and I said, there's only one way to play this song. It's like
exactly the way he would have done it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I study his tone. I got some...
That very aggressive, yeah.
That tone. Okay. Now, it's a tone that was in the 70s. If you put that tone in a current recording, it's going to get buried.
I see.
Because all the other tones are modern.
And very bright.
And very bright.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what happened to my bass.
You're in there somewhere.
I'm in there, but that's what happened. It's like in a situation where they send you tracks and you record something. You're not in the same room working with one engineer who's going to say, "Well, we're going to work in your tone a little bit," and so it fits. I had no idea what the guitar was going to sound like or any of the other instruments was going to sound like. All I knew is that I want to capture the essence of John and Whistle. I did, but nobody's going to hear it.
So let's talk about. The evidence is there. The Quiet Riot Metal Health album first.
Okay,
but can I ask questions? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
Or you want to take over? You take over.
No. I love your questions. I do.
You should interview me. We'll flip the. Yeah. Okay, so it's a different way to come at it because when things are overexplored, they tend to fall into kind of like there's a story and the story is interesting, but it's maybe not the whole story. Metal Health album, first real heavy metal album ever to go number one. True, right? Is that fair?
It was the first debut. There have been other metal records that went to number one.
Okay, first debut.
Debut, yeah.
But I mean, it's a seminal moment. Let's.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I mean, there's before that album and there's after that album, right? So, a couple things. One is, I love that record when it came out. I got it and I had it.
Thank you.
And I not only did I get it, I got it. Like I got it musically.
Interesting.
So that record came out, 83? Does that sound right?
Well, it got released in 83.
Okay, right.
It was recorded in 82.
So I'm 16 years old. So I'm the perfect age, you know what I mean? To really, am I 16? I can't even do math anymore. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, but even back then, there was a bit of a vibe amongst the metal community that it wasn't heavy enough or something enough. Kevin obviously rubbed people the wrong way. MTV, Kevin rubbed people the wrong way. There was that vibe. And then over time, the record really hasn't gotten the respect it deserves. Is that a fair statement? Do you feel that's fair?
That is interesting. I mean, to me, the respect it deserves is based on people going out and buying it and listening to the record. It's still in Sound Exchange, which is a reflection of airplay. It does really well.
Yeah.
So, and we still sold records, because we still get royalties.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say anything negative.
Yeah. No, I understand. So, the respect. See, I think it did not get the respect because there was not a follow through.
Okay.
To it.
Pause that for one thought. Pause that for 1 second. Okay. So here's what I'm after. Because I was there as a fan and I got it. I mean, I got the record. And some of the things you've even told me today, which I didn't know, like you were talking about Frankie's record collection. You're talking about you loving Bowie and Herbie Flowers and your influences, even your Cuban music influences. There's a lot more in that record than meets the eye. That record, in many ways, is an 80s clarification of something that the 70s didn't solve, which was how to make that music pop.
Interesting.
The glam influence in particular on that record, and obviously with Slade, Come On, Feel the Noise, that's the sort of secret sauce of the record. It's like, for people who don't like hard rock or heavy metal, that don't really love it, who don't really understand the difference between Deep Purple and Rainbow, or even the Graham Bonnet version of Rainbow. You know what I mean? They don't really understand it. They just kind of paint it with a broad brush. I like to say I'm a music snob, and what I think that people don't understand about the Metal Health record is it's actually a more sophisticated record. It's so clear in its presentation that it comes off simpler than it is. But putting those influences together in that way, Quiet Riot was the first band that ever figured that out. And you were there.
I love that perception.
Okay, cool.
I love that perception.
That's what I was after.
Because it just opens up all of these perceptions. See, now I can move like this because you open up that lane for me to move around.
That's what I'm asking you to do. Take me back into that. Because
I'll take you back into that. Oh boy, how much time do we have? Okay. Many things were going on at that time. There was a turnover. There was the new British invasion of the new wave of metal happening.
Iron Maiden, Def Leppard.
Exactly.
UFO.
You named it.
Okay.
And these are bands that we either tour with Ozzy, like UFO, and Def Leppard, Motorhead, Saxon. So I could see them every night. What's going on? Meanwhile, here's Kevin DuBrow in LA, in this band DuBrow, writing songs to impress Randy so he could leave Ozzy to come back and play with him.
I didn't know that.
That is the product of that.
So Randy has an influence.
Oh, major. I'll tell you how big it went.
That's so beautiful.
Bang your head. Okay. Yeah. So we're touring with Ozzy in England. Girl is opening up. And this is when Phil Collins was still in the band. And we are watching the kids banging their heads on stage. So we were going back to LA to start the Diary of a Madman pre-production. And the first thing we always would do, Randy and I would get in the car, pick us up, go to Kevin's place, pick him up, go to the Rainbow, and give him an update. Because there's no internet. Yeah. Nobody knows what's going on.
Here's what happened. Yeah. Here's the tour story.
Say, this is what's going on out there, right? And we told them about the kids banging their heads. That's where Metal Health, the song, came from.
Yeah.
Because originally it was a snow song. Now, that's Carlos Cavazos's band before he joined the Bro. And it was called No More Booze.
No More Booze.
There you go. You got it. So Kevin rewrote the song and it became Metal Health. So all along, Kevin was writing music and moving forward to impress Randy. So Randy, his idea was to come back to play with him.
And their relationship was still good as far as
it was always
brothers.
Good. Yeah, it was always brothers. Once Randy died, Kevin just lost that. He had nobody to play for, nobody to impress, nobody to
I see.
because Randy had been there from the very beginning.
Right.
Something that I did not share with Kevin. I did not share that 2 or 3 years of them growing up playing music.
And once you're...
Exactly. And that's what happened to Kevin. He got bitter because he lost Randy. He lost the opportunity to play with Randy after Randy, was in Ozzy.
I see.
So that's what really, there were 3 Kevins that I played with. It was Kevin with the Randy Rhoads era, then the Dubrow Kevin, and then the Metal Health Kevin. And that, he was damaged by Randy's passing by then. And then also, once we made it, all the leashes come out in LA, and then the easiest way to bypass all the struggle that you have to be to a musician to get into the circle of success is to come on, let me give you, you want some of this, you want some of that, I'll give it to you. And then all of a sudden you become best buddies and you are in that circle. Yeah. And that's what happens.
The fastest way to get to a band when they're young is drugs.
Yeah.
We had a guy once walk up to us backstage, and he just had all these drugs. And we just met the guy 5 seconds ago. And next thing you know, we start doing all this guy's drugs. And as we're doing the drugs, we're saying, we might die. We might be taking poison. It's so stupid.
I know.
Made total sense, right?
I know.
We met this guy. He's got a bunch of drugs. Hey, come on. What's your name? Phil? Come on, Phil. Yeah. Come hang out with us.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's your new tour manager.
One more round on the Metal Health album.
Yeah.
I know it's overly simple to say, did you know you had something special? But did you feel while you were making the record that something different was happening?
Yeah. You know what? If you put together side by side, if you listen to Speak of the Devil, my performance on that.
Yeah.
And you listen,
I had that record too.
Yeah. If you listen to Metal Health, it's like 2 different bass players. First of all, when I went in to record Thunderbird, and there was enough time left in the session, the producer said, "Do you remember Slick by Cadillac?" "Yeah, let's do it." So we cut it in 2 passes. My equipment was already on its way to New York to record Speak of the Devil. So I had my practice bass, which was a Roland synthesizer.
Oh, you had one of those.
Well, GR55, whatever. And that's what you hear on Thunderbird, which I had like a chorusing effect.
Yeah.
For the rest of the songs, that wasn't appropriate, right? So I wound up, I took off the synthesizer and just plug it in directly into the pickup that he had. And I said, well, there's no record deal, so I'm sure that if these guys ever get a record deal, this will be just a demo, So it was kind of like
famous last words, though.
Yeah, it was kind of like treated that way. And then there was time for 2 songs that I knew from Dubrow besides Thunderbird. Let's Get Crazy and Loves the Beach. So by the time I left that session, I'm still a member of Ozzy. I recorded 4 songs for Metal Health. And then I went back to New York, and there's this doom and gloom, of being, playing in the band. I mean, I love playing musically in the band, but it had become very hard.
Well, it had to be hard for Ozzy to have to play Black Sabbath songs when he's coming off all that success. You've lost Randy, which is beyond a tragedy. Here's poor Brad Gillis kind of thrown into the deep end.
Yeah. It was tough. It was very tough. So I made one of the toughest decisions I've ever made in my life, which was to leave one of the biggest bands in the world for the complete unknown, and especially the way that Ozzy and Sharon treated me. They were wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to me. Even to this day, inviting me to play, with you and everybody else. And that was so unexpected, but they did. And I went there just, out of being grateful for their invitation, and find out that everybody else was there for the same reason.
Amazing, right? Yeah. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
We got to end strong, So, record comes out. It's huge success. You know what I mean? So really, for the first time, you have your own success. It must have felt different. I can imagine.
I was too busy thinking about it.
I didn't have
Because
time to think
remember,
about it.
I had been on tour, Blizzard of Oz. We took a month off. The entirety of Madman. Randy passes away. We're putting guitar players, to come in and finish the tour. Then there's this Speak of the Devil, and my friends were doing the Dubrow band was doing this session, and so it was kind of like, and then so I record both records back to back at the same time, and then I leave Ozzy and finish the rest of the tracks that I needed to finish for the Mental Health, and then we did not do any gigs at all until the record was released in March.
Okay.
And then it just took off.
Yeah, it
was amazing.
Exploded. Yeah.
I mean, it was serendipity. How we played at the Oz Festival was because we had our agency also represented, booking agent represented Scorpions. And they were doing a warm-up tour, like for 2 weeks, that led up to the Oz Festival because they had been in the studio recording. So we did that run from Duluth down to Denver. And on the last day of our tour, we do Denver, and Barry Fay, who was the promoter for the Oz Festival. He's the one who booked the bands. He had just moved Joe Welsh.
Okay.
From the metal day to the pop day. Stevie Nicks and
so we had a spot open.
Yeah, spot open.
So you guys just got kind of thrown on the...
And he runs into our dressing room after our show and says, "Hey guys," introduces himself, and "How would you guys like to play the Oz Festival?" So we said yes on the spot, and we didn't even have a crew when we played there. We just had to call up friends to borrow equipment because all the equipment had been booked by the other bands who were playing.
Now, is it a true story that Ozzy punched you at this gig? Is that
not there?
Not there?
I think we didn't see anybody because we were in the middle of our own tour. So we got off the stage like around 12:30 because we went on at noon. I think we did half an hour. And then we towel off. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was there. This is 1983. And just went back to the airport and flew back out on the road again. It was in 1984 that incident happened.
Okay.
And it was not at the event. It was at a hotel. Yeah.
Okay. I just thought it was so strange, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we don't have
it's a better headline.
Yeah.
It happened at the no, but we didn't see anybody. We just like this split.
So as I alluded to before, your man Kevin Dubrow, his relationship with the press, and I say this as somebody who has a very fractious relationship with the press for many, many years. He seemed to really lean into it, right? Is that accurate? That's my memory of the time. Here's two things. I remember seeing you either on like American Bandstand or something. Does that sound right? It was like one of those types of shows. On Mental Health.
Solid Gold. We used to do a Solid Gold a lot.
Okay. I remember seeing you on there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was like you guys came from Mars or something. You know what I mean? Because it's like I'd seen you, but it was like you being on one of those shows felt like...
Yeah.
But that's America, right? When something kicks in, suddenly you're on the show you shouldn't be on.
Yeah.
So there you are.
Yeah, we're doing all that. Yeah.
All of it, right?
Yeah.
So I have a memory of seeing you on there.
Yeah.
And then my other memory is a lot of MTV.
Yeah.
A lot of MTV.
Come and Feel the Noise was on every half hour.
But what a great video, what a great song. I mean, I still think that's one of the great, it's so on point.
Yeah.
But from a personal point of view, because I know I drove my band crazy with my mouth. Okay, so I'm saying this in the flip side. You're somebody who's, you're not a person who's going to go out and cause a lot of trouble with your mouth. That's generally been your MO through the years. But Kevin was a notorious shit stirrer.
Yeah. Well, he was bitter because, and this is a fact, we got signed to a production deal. And which means that, you know what it means, but for
Yeah.
the listener.
Yeah, you basically don't have, maybe not, and you're on somebody else's, you're not even signed to a label. You're signed you're signed to some guy or girl. And
we did sign to the label, but under distribution by Columbia.
Right.
But we were signed to a Columbia record deal.
Okay.
But there was a certain percentage that we took.
Sure.
And the bulk went to the production company.
Yeah.
You know, but without that record deal, we would have, you know.
Sure.
We didn't
so
have
he
a
was
record.
bitter about the deal.
Yeah. Well, what he was bitter about was that after our record went to number one, every label out there signed bands from the Strip.
And they probably got better deals than
and
you
they got standard deals. And so he was bitter about that. My perception was completely different. I looked at it like, if it wasn't for that, you know, crappy deal, we wouldn't have this.
Yeah.
And plus, we were killing it with merchandise. We had masks that we would sell, the Quiet Riot mask, and we had hats and shirts and you name it. That's how we were making the money before credit cards.
Right. I don't want to get you any kind of tax implications.
No, because we had a company that did that.
Right.
And they would say, okay, this is how much money we made, and that's it. Yeah.
So was it a happy time in the band, or I know it's so hard to sum these things up.
Yeah. And we were actually too busy to even, you know, Kevin would do interviews, and of course the interview would not be printed until like maybe 3 months later, and by then it was like we're moving on to something else, you know. It did not get really crazy until. See, because the interviews were, the bad rap were aimed at musicians. You know, what were your rants about?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody. I didn't spare anybody. I still have people mad at me. I still, to this day, will see people and go up and apologize for things I said or did. And some people will never let it go.
Yeah.
Never let it go.
Apologize. But, you know, that to me is a learning journey. You know?
I think what's hard to explain to people who wouldn't understand, and especially back then, maybe less so now, is you were put into such a competitive atmosphere that you couldn't help but see people around you as the competition. Like it was like it's me or you, when it wasn't me versus them. It was actually us versus all of them.
That's such an interesting perception, because I always saw your band being totally unique.
Well, we were, but we were still put under the same forces as everybody else. The crappy record deal, the being threatened. You could be dropped at any moment. All that, you know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
it was more of an industry.
Well, I wasn't sophisticated enough to understand that the guy in the other band wasn't my enemy. You know what I mean? And in many ways, the record company wasn't my enemy. I think it was just a way of expressing discomfort in a very juvenile way.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny, too, and I said a lot of funny things.
Yeah. But isn't it ironic that the same rebellion that would make you a rock star can destroy your career?
Oh, yeah. Still destroying my career. I mean, in the very seat you're sitting in, Gavin Rossdale LaBush, I mean, we talked about it when I did the interview with him. I mean, at some point he came up to me in the 90s and said, "Why are you saying bad things about my band?" And I later went and apologized to him, and I apologized even to him again when he was sitting in this chair, because he's proven my perception of the moment wrong. You know what I mean? Like the reason that I was being critical of his band or other people's bands seems so irrelevant now in the looking back through time. Because anybody who can rise up to a level of we've sat here and talked for hours about your story, to come from where you've come from, to actually reach the world stage and play with such great musicians and be involved with such great music. It's such a miracle.
It is a miracle.
But in the moment, in the competitive heat of the moment, you don't always necessarily respect everybody in the game. Or I do think that people in the media and the record companies don't mind you being in a competitive spirit.
You know, that is such an interesting button that you just push. Because I've dealt with that before.
Okay.
And mine is like, again, it's a spiritual journey. So if I gonna be spiritual about my creativity or where I'm at in my career, I cannot be bitter about it because I must look at it as a blessing.
Yeah.
So I've been in bad situations that I know I have to get out, but I know that I made a commitment and I'm not going to walk away from them until I've completed the assignment.
Yeah. At some point I woke up from all that and I realized it was a miracle that we were successful and I should be grateful and not. Because, you have your list, I have my list. We can sit here and talk about all the times we've been screwed over and this thing and that thing and this promise, but the fact that we made it through is the miracle.
Yes.
But it takes time sometimes, and in my case, maturity to appreciate how incredible it is. And real quick, one of the reasons I like talking to people like you that I admire is to celebrate how unique that journey is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was 30 when I joined Ozzy.
Right.
You were younger than I was when you started.
Well, we got our first record deal when I was 23.
I was a different person at 23.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, back to the Quiet Riot. Like you said, the inability to have let's call it as successful follow-up or maintain that momentum. Did you feel that internally?
Oh, yeah. This is what happened. With every successful record, there's a lot of touring involved. So,
well, sorry, but back then they'd want to keep you on the road into infinity because you're making a lot of money.
Until they feel that the record company. They feel
did management too for you guys too?
Well, we were on the road for a year and a half after the record was released, and it was like, okay, guys, we need to have your record out for the third quarter because fourth quarter used to be Christmas albums.
Yes.
So the third quarter will be like the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Write another classic album. Go.
We got pulled off the road. Put it right in the studio. So we don't have time to write. Mental Health took about 10 years to write.
Yeah.
It's the first album. You got all these songs that you've been working on for the last 10 years, and the next record took you got 6 weeks to make this record? It was like, wow. So now it became time. Okay, well, what were the rejects from the last album? So half of that record is that, and the other half is just songs, bits and pieces that we used to do during sound check, that could have been cool riffs that became songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then while we were doing the radio promotions from every city, because you know how it goes, you get up and you leave town and then you go in drive to the parking lot of the radio station, you roll out in the morning, you do the interview, you get back on, then you check into your room, repeat. Okay. And so every DJ would say, well, the Slade song is so great. You should do another Slade song from the next record. And most of them said, Mama, we're crazy now. So we thought, okay, let's do Mama to please the DJs.
Okay.
Perfect storm. There was a band called Mama's Boys that at the same time recorded Mama, We're Crazy Now. And MTV just ate it up. So it was them against us.
See, there's the competition. Did you guys lose?
Yeah.
So I remember your version, so I didn't know that there was a competitive version.
Mama's Boys. Yeah.
Where's Mama's Boys now?
I
Okay, so we've all been there. The energy starts to dissipate. The record company starts acting weird. The DJs aren't as nice anymore. The people stop taking you out to dinner. There's not as many fans in the wherever you're playing. Did that all happen that way? Does it?
Can I add something
Please,
else?
yeah.
Every single band in the world that you were a fan of now is against you. In the press. We brought together metal. I think that was the biggest accomplishment that we did for the second record. Everybody against us, united.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What was the consistency of the criticism? Not a good band, not good song. Like,
Oh yeah, I remember. I think it was either right, one of the guys from Queen or Billy Squire saying, "Oh, these guys by next year they'll be hairdressers."
well,
it's the 80s. That was still a viable occupation.
So how did you deal with, let's call it, the diminishment of the situation or the adversity of the situation? Okay, start there. How did you take the
I left the band.
You left the band?
Yeah, because all of a sudden my friends hated me or hated the band, and you start going down with the ship. I couldn't fix the situation because all of a sudden they turned on me.
Who turned on you?
The band, my band.
Your band from within turned on you because
I was me. First of all, I was married. One of the major differences in our trajectory was that I already been through it with Ozzy. I've seen what success looks like and how it should be handled.
And they hadn't, so you had the, okay.
Yeah. I was already, let's say, mature.
Yeah.
I had a spiritual center. That was my compass, moral and integrity and everything else having to do with life. I was happily married, and they were still on the other path, the new rock stars.
But did they blame you for something or?
No, sometimes in the 80s, because of course, your generation is more 90s, which is post or during AIDS.
Okay.
Pre-AIDS was wild.
I know, because my father was from that generation.
Yeah, it was wild. And if you did not partake in the wild lifestyle, you were an outcast.
I see. So you were kind of ostracized because you sort of weren't hanging with the gang anymore. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's just stop there because there's other things I want to talk about that are important. Because, as we know, you're still carrying forth the banner of Quiet Riot.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only sort of original member in the group.
Well, of what became Mental Health, I'm the only original member.
Yes. Yeah. So you're the only tangible link to that.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about your marriage because, as you know, a successful marriage in the music arts is very rare, and a successful marriage over 40 years is even more rare. So, besides the obviousness, the obvious part, which is you love your wife and you celebrate her, what do you think has been the sort of the thing that's kept you sane through it all? Because ... you literally came from the time when excess was part of the game. It's different now. It's different, but back then it was celebrated.
2 towns. I came from Miami in the 70s.
Somehow I know Scarface, what that means, even though I wasn't there.
Scarface is a home movie.
Okay,
I'm telling you. And then you have L.A. But then I did not partake in Miami or in LA because I knew that was going to get in the way of me making it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Because I used to run into huge rock stars at the Rainbow who were completely out of it and nobody wanted to play with them.
I see.
Because they were irresponsible. I mean, these are people who are gigantic talents and now they have cleaned up. And they have their own story. But I learned from that.
I see.
And so when you're with the right person, you just know it. Because every day you want to be with them. Even if I'm on the road, this is the person that I want to come home to. But, as much as it is a journey of a celebration, when I go on the road with Quiet Riot, as soon as I step in my garage to get in my car to go to the airport, it's my journey home.
I see.
It's the beginning. It's all about me coming home.
I see.
To my wife and my little dog, Willow. And it's been like that. I mean, since we first got together in 1981, I found that she was the only person that I really wanted to be when I was back in LA. And I think sense of humor, we have fun. I think fun is such a important part of any relationship.
Yeah.
Even in a band, you gotta have fun.
What would you say to somebody? Because, especially young people, there's still, we all know what it means when we say rock and roll fantasy.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's young that hasn't lived their rock and roll fantasy or their version of the fantasy? What is it about love and fidelity in marriage that always trumps the rock and roll fantasy?
That's a great question. And often, couples will ask me, we want one from the couple. How do you know it's the right one? He says, well, if you can imagine your life going on without this person, they're not the right one.
Yeah.
You got to find the one that you cannot imagine your life going on without them.
Yeah. I to praise my wife in the thought, it wasn't until I had that relationship with her and now with my children, it was the first time in my life I actually understood what was missing in my life because I had everything else. It was the one thing I couldn't buy. It was the one thing I could manufacture with my talent. I had to commit to one person to really get the best out of life. And what was amazing was, for the first time in my life, I started enjoying my musical life because I didn't need my musical life to be what I didn't have. My musical life could just be my musical life, which is fantastic.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, last thing, because we shared this incredible 3 days with the Ozzy final show, the Black Sabbath final show. And, we got to play with such great, you were you were kind of one of the MVPs that was playing with a lot of different musicians, but Sammy Hagar, Tom Morello, Nuno Bettencourt, Chad Smith, KK. I mean, so incredible, right? And one memory that I have that I will always hold is me and you looked at each other about 10 times during those 3 days and thought, this is really fun. This is awesome. We're having such a cool time. But I don't know. I don't have a question as much as for you, particularly because of your relationship to Sharon and Ozzy. It's a lot of emotions to process because we went through the whole joy of playing together. I don't know, you tell me, it's the most behaved I've ever seen a group of rock stars in my life. And to me, it was in tribute to Ozzy and Sabbath. Everybody was on their best behavior. I've never seen anything like it. I never saw one ego moment. I never saw one tantrum where somebody's dressing room was. Everybody was just on their, it was like summer camp. Everybody was in just a great mood. Was that your experience too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the day before the show, July 4th, I was standing with Sharon and Ross Halfin, the
great photographer. Yeah.
And we're talking, and it dawned on me, and we talked about this, that we were the only people besides Ozzy and my wife that had been present at their wedding on July 4th, 1982.
I mean,
and then I just happened to have a photo that somebody sent me recently that Ross Halfin took of during the wedding. There was a luau band.
And Ozzy got up or something. Right?
We got up, and I'm playing a stand-up bass, and Brett Gillis is playing an acoustic guitar, and Ozzy's singing. He's got a lay on, and we're doing Paranoid, the rum version.
Yeah, the rum version
of Paranoid, and we're going like, wow. And then the year before, what was our first Ozzy show at a stadium? It was a Day on the Green, Bill Graham's Day on the Green in San Francisco, Oakland Stadium, actually. And so and Ross was there taking the photos. So it was like this moment that we all shared, in our lives. And watching Ozzy so energetic during his performance with both this solo and Black Sabbath. It gave me this sense of like, well, maybe he's not as ill as we think he is or that we experience. Because, during the photo session, you and I, we were hanging and Ozzy was kind of like conserving his energy. He was rehearsing still. With both Black Sabbath and the Ozzy. But he was kind of like, you could see he was a bit frail, but his performance was like, it was like a maniac. Still, he was sitting down, but still, he was jumping up and down. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a text from a friend giving me condolences. And I go, what's going on? And he tells me what it was. And it was like, and immediately started getting requests to make a
statement,
to say
talk,
something. And it was like, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. And it took me 2 weeks to get a sense of why I was feeling like that. A feeling that it was just like I had when we lost Randy. I was lost. Why am I feeling this loss? And then it came to realize that Randy, Ozzy, and Sharon are the 3 people responsible for my career. And to lose one of them, again, another one. It was the same sense of loss.
I think, because I'd been involved in the final show, I got drafted to do some interviews afterwards. And out of respect for Sharon and of course Ozzy, I wanted to help set maybe the right tone. And I'll give you a quick funny thing. So that night, the day Ozzy passed, that night I was on BBC Radio, which is obviously a pretty big deal in England. And I was in England at the time because I was rehearsing with my band. And they said, okay, we're going to play this thing and then we're going to come to you. And Henry Rollins was also talking. And so it starts with like a news report, like today, blah, 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 blah. And it was all the dumb stuff with Ozzy, the biting of the head and the thing, even talking about stuff that had gone on between Sharon and Ozzy. And I thought, my God, he's not even been passed away for 6-8 hours. So they play all that. And then they come to me, live, you know what I mean? So I felt like I was in the right place because I wanted to say the right things that people like us care about. Ozzy's influence, Ozzy's longevity, And even at the end, the guy said, how would you rate his legacy? And I said, well, you may not understand what I'm saying, but I would put Ozzy up there with Sinatra as a singular voice who for 4 to 5 decades touched people through the magic of their voice. And I don't even think that they as singers even understand the power of that, because for them it's just natural. They open their mouth and out comes that sound. And the guy laughed like, I've never heard a comparison to that before. And then they cut me off. You know what I mean? They didn't cut me off to cut me off because they were going to something else. So I felt it was right to be in that media thing, I'm trying to think of where I'm trying to go with this. It's, this is where our 2 thoughts connect. We love our fans. We love the people who've made us have this great dream of music. Even today, I ran into Paul Stanley in Los Angeles, and Paul was saying, don't we have amazing lives? As only Paul Stanley can say it, you know what I mean? And if I could give and I'm asking you if you want to contribute to this thought, but if I could give anybody like a little bit of a magnifying glass into the world that we've touched in different ways, and obviously here talking about Sabbath, Ozzy, and Sharon, and of course the Osbourne kids, inside it's a family. It's not a perfect family, And when we were taking that picture with Ross, Pantera, me, you, Tool, Metallica, it's a family in a way that people could never understand. And maybe not even everybody's a friend, but it's a family that's because it's such a unique fraternity of people. And in that case, it's like you said, it's Ozzy's connection.
Mm-hmm.
Metallica, because without Ozzy, Metallica would have reached that level of success. And they say it. It's not some music critic writing it. It's Metallica saying, we're indebted to this guy. And even you talking about it. I mean, Rudy Sarzo, you know? So I think that's the beauty of it is, for a rare moment in rock history where it's about egos and insanity and the stupid stories, we just made it about music for one day and the love of this band and this artist. And to be there, it was truly a magical thing. It truly was a magical thing.
Absolutely. And the fans. So many messages that I'm sure you have also read from your fans, how Ozzy and Black Sabbath changed their lives, you know, saved their lives.
Yeah.
I think it's, again, it's going to be an infinite emotion.
But that's music, you see.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Absolutely.
The song will outlive us, right?
The consciousness.
There you go. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Bless you.